What's going on, everybody? Dylan here with Espresso Outlet, and today we are going to be interviewing Sweet Pea Coffee Company. But before we do so, I'd like to take a moment and introduce Espresso Outlet, where I'm fortunate to be a part of the team. Espresso Outlet is a specialty retailer dedicated to bringing the finest home and commercial coffee equipment to coffee enthusiasts, small business owners, and anyone who loves a perfect shot of espresso, even if they are home enthusiasts. We work with a wide range of top tier brands offering everything from espresso machines and grinders to brewing accessories. Our goal is to provide customers not only with premium products, but also with the knowledge and support needed to get the most of their equipment. At Espresso Outlet, we pride ourselves in being a trusted resource in the coffee community, offering expert advice and product recommendations based on each customer's unique needs. We have blogs that I would definitely recommend checking out, and we also have Facebook groups that I would also recommend checking out as well, and they are very, very helpful, especially if you are into the coffee community. Whether you're just starting your journey into home espresso or you're a cafe owner looking to upgrade your gear, Espresso Outlet is here to guide you every step of the way, ensuring you can brew like a pro from the comfort of your own space. Now, let's get started with Sweet Pea Coffee Company. So now we're going to get started and just kind of learn more about Sweet Pea Coffee Co. So I have a couple questions here, so I'm going to be kind of looking over down here at the screen just so I don't miss any of the questions that we want to ask him. So just kind of like your company background, can you tell us a story behind Sweet Pea Coffee Co. and how it got started? Kind of what sets you apart from other coffee companies in your area?
Yeah. Um, so we started originally as a mobile coffee unit. I think you knew that we talked about that prior, and it was going really well for us. But our lives kind of shifted as a family, and mobile catering, while it's fun, has a lot of its challenges, such as just being up early, being in places. So when we found out we were pregnant with our daughter, who we had about 2 months ago, we knew we either had to dive all in coffee and just like find a brick and mortar shop, or we had to pull back and kind of make it more like a weekend scale because it was my full time job at the time, and my wife was a full time unpaid employee, if you would. And so at that time, we started looking and searching for brick and mortar shops. And real estate's high. It's hard. And then on top of that, it costs a lot to build out a space, like more than you would think, even just with the bare minimums that you need. You're paying a lot for your bar build out, your design, like tables and chairs alone is like several $1,000s. So, I mean, it all starts to add up really quick. But we were blessed. My in-laws are from the area we're at now, so we're Sweet Pea Coffee Co. We're located on Main Street in LaPorte, Texas, which is just right outside of Houston, about 30 minutes from downtown. At the time, my wife and I were living in Katy, Texas, which is about an hour on the other side of Houston, which that's how big it is. You're still in Houston, just an hour away. And looking over there, real estate was high, and they don't care a lot about specialty coffee out there. They like their quick shops, they like their drive-throughs. So we had done a lot of events over here in LaPorte for a lot of the elementary schools and stuff like that. And every time we just heard, man, I wish there was a mom and pop. Man, I wish there was a local spot over here. Man, like we wish you guys were here. And after hearing that probably about 8 or 10 times at different schools, like unprompted from us, we just decided, hey, we should dive in over here. And then this perfect spot became available on Main Street. And it's just a really up and coming area right now. They're trying to revitalize their Main Street, putting in like a food truck park down the street that's been here for just about a year now, a couple of bistros and boutique shops. And so we just decided, hey, there's nothing over here like this. The closest specialty shop that's close to us would probably be about 15 to 20 minutes away, which isn't obviously terribly far, but to people over here, it's kind of out in the direction they would normally go. So we were like, hey, we could be a staple here. And when this building became available, we, like I said, dove all in. We were blessed to be able to have the financing to do it. The building was obviously prefabbed and ready to go, but it was old and rustic and took a lot of work. But we bootstrapped it ourselves. My dad and I built out our bar. We built out our bench that I'll show you guys later. We'll do a quick walkthrough. My wife and I painted everything. She did all of our murals on the walls. I mean, everything you see in here was done by us. We outsourced like very, very little, like the things we had to, like electrical, right? But other than that, like we made it happen in about a 2 month time span after we signed the lease. We just got in here and kicked it pretty hard. So we're blessed to be here. Blessed to be in the coffee business. I've been in the coffee industry for about 5 years now. I've been a catering manager for a company. I've managed shops. I've just been a basic barista. You name it, I've probably done it. So I'm here and get to be in a space that I love every day.
That's awesome. So you kind of touched on starting as a mobile coffee business, which we've actually spoke with you before. What besides people saying like, "Hey, you should come and build a shop out," just because everybody says to come do that doesn't mean like, "Hey, you should go do it right away." What was that first push that really pushed you guys towards building a brick and mortar as opposed to a pop-up business? And do you still have your pop-up business, and are you doing that on the side along with your coffee company?
Yeah. Um, I mean, kind of like I touched on that a little bit. The push was just catering is a beast of its own. You typically get catered as a coffee business to do morning events. So you're getting to places 5:30, to be ready to serve by 6 at the best. Most time 5:30 be serving at 6:30. So, you're up depending on how far you have to drive. Could be 30 minutes, could be 45 minutes, could be an hour and a half. I mean, you're up at 4 in the morning, 3:30 in the morning. You're loading stuff in the trailer. You're getting your coolers iced down with milk. Like you're packing everything up. And there's only so much pre-prep you can do to get yourself ready. But it's not like I can just like hook up to my trailer and go. It's like we're up, we're moving. And like I said, it was me and my wife, and it was my full-time job. It was my source of income, and she was just there for the journey. She loves it as well. Thankfully, she had a flexible job. But when we found out we were having our daughter, it was just a big push for us to open a brick and mortar. The push to do it in LaPorte was definitely, like I said, everybody in the area wanting us to be here and wanting us to be in this space to open up a shop. But that was our main push of opening a brick and mortar. We do not have the mobile business anymore. We sold the trailer about a month and a half to 2 months after we got the shop open to some girls out in Katy that actually own a different mobile business. They wanted to pair that with a coffee industry business. So we took all the equipment out of our trailer, my refrigerator, and we sold that to them straight up, which is good. I think they're doing pretty good over there, but we just don't have the capacity to run both right now. I'm a three team here. I'm here a lot, to say the least. When we first opened, I was here every hour of the day. It was just me. Since hired my best friend on full time. He's our production manager. He makes all of our pastries in house. We also do a lot of quick bite foods here, and we make all of our syrups and stuff. So I mean, that keeps us busy. We're making something every day, if not multiple things every day. Production has to be done, and so him and I are here full time. And then I've been blessed with a barista who's just fantastic. She reached out. She had prior experience, and thankfully it's somebody who I can trust to be here whenever I'm not here. She knows how to hold it down, so that's been really nice too.
That's awesome. So you also touched on when you first started your coffee business, your brick and mortar, and just talk about the importance for those who are watching this on doing as many things as you can yourself, whether it's building your bar, redoing the floors, painting, doing the murals. What is the importance of that and why?
Oh God, it is to me. It's so important. I mean, I'm cheap, in a lot of different ways, and in the specialty coffee industry, like there are things you can be cheap on and things you can't be cheap on. If you have the money, if you have the capital, and you're got a solid business plan, then I have no. I'm not going to diss anybody who's like, oh, I'm not going to do that myself. Like, I'm going to have somebody come do that. Like, more power to you. But when you're, small and you don't have a lot of money backing you and you're on a very tight budget to get a space open, every penny counts. Every penny, not every dollar, every penny counts. So whether it be us returning materials to the hardware store that we didn't use, whether it be underbuying materials because we think we can stretch it far, I mean, every single little thing counts. So thankfully, my wife is a pretty talented artist when she tries to do things. So to help with some projectors and stuff, she painted our murals on her wall. They're nothing fancy, but they look good. They look really classy. In my opinion, like I said, my dad and I, we put up a bunch of faux brick, built a bar out, all that kind of stuff saved me tens of thousands of dollars. I mean, I couldn't even begin to imagine if I was to try to hire a contractor to do the things my dad and I did alone, how much it would cost. I also spent hours and hours in here just myself tearing down things that we didn't need anymore. There used to be like a stand-up bar that was built into a wall. I tore that down and patched it up. We patched up a service window. I took off a lot of like old trimming and stuff just to redo to kind of spruce the place up. I mean, there was a lot of things that I did myself, and again, that matters because of the money. I mean, that's the main thing. If you've got more money and you can hire someone else to do it, then by all means, like, there's no issue with that. I will say, like, because I did it myself, I was able to hold it to the standard that I have. Whereas, like, sometimes when you outsource things, people do it to their standard, which might not meet your standards. So that has been important. But I mean, little things like my ice machine broke last week, and I fixed it. You know, like I got in there, tore it apart, cleaned it up, figured out the issue, replaced the water pump. You know, overnight ordering parts. I spent $55 and 4 hours of my time fixing it, but just to call a service tech out was $100 for them to show up, and then another probably 100 for them to fix it. So you're probably looking like 175 to 200 easily for them to fix something that I did for $55. I mean, it stinks because do I know what I'm doing? Not necessarily, but I'm pretty savvy enough to figure it out. I've worked in a lot of different shops where thankfully the bosses and the owners were go-getters like that too. You can do it yourself, then you try to do it yourself, and can't, then you hire somebody to come do it. But you definitely at least give it the old try first because that money can be
Exactly.
used elsewhere for sure. So I mean that $150 I saved on the ice machine, I can now use for product or coffee or I mean you name it, like electric bill, like it goes towards so many other things. So
So how long would you recommend how long would you recommend serving in an area if you're starting as a mobile coffee business? How long would you recommend serving in a certain area or community before you say like you pull the trigger and say, yeah, I'm gonna do a brick and mortar here?
yeah, depends on how involved you are in that community, I would say. We jumped in pretty quick, but again, we serve over here for about a 2 to 3 month time span, multiple different schools and different events that they have over here. My in-laws are from here. They live right down the street from where we are right now. We were over here for years on end. We've been to several events over here. They're heavily invested in the community, which helps because that helps us adjacently be invested in the community here already at just a level that I've never been invested in any other small town community with, really. If you're not familiar with the area, but you just think you're having success, then I would highly suggest like stay where you're at and keep your head down and grind. You know, if you're making money, if you're getting by, like you might have that desire to be like, I just want a brick and mortar. Like I'm tired of being in these four walls of this trailer or whatever it may be. Like keep your head down and grind. Like it's worth it. I promise. Like it is so worth it. It piece of my heart tore when we sold the trailer. I loved it. It was a work of art. I mean, we had it custom built by a guy. Um, Shout out Espresso Coffee Co. They built it out for us over in Idaho and delivered it to us. And I mean, I loved everything about that trailer. I thought it was perfectly designed for a mobile unit that I wanted. And I would have stayed in there. Like if I could have found a place to pop up over here and been consistent, I think I would have. But the area that I'm in just doesn't respond well to pop up trailers like that, unfortunately. And so the cash flow is definitely better as a brick and mortar for sure. I mean, it's more consistent. I would say you can make a lot of money really quickly as a mobile catering unit. But if you're just doing pop ups or like you find a place to just consistently park, like if you're getting good flow, stay, keep your head down. And if you keep getting that traffic and you feel like you have grown into a space where like you can comfortably take on the project of opening a brick and mortar, then like dip your toes and go all in. But just make sure that you're confident because once the doors are open and the bills start coming, they don't stop coming, you know. So you got to make sure the customers are coming in and out every day. You got to make sure you have those regulars and those staples. So
Absolutely. So now we're going to kind of get into where the coffee sourcing and sustainability comes from. So, where do you source your coffee beans from, and how do you select your suppliers?
yeah, definitely. A lot of really good roasters in Houston say that. A lot of people out here, I mean, really know what they're doing. You get into the downtown Houston area, there's a lot of really nice specialty shops, and some of those sell to the other specialty shops, right? But we use a company called Tenfold Coffee Company. They are fantastic to work with in and out. Let's see, we probably tried 15 different roasters. I mean, I had so much coffee; it was crazy to be honest with you. But they were all great. I mean, they all gave you samples of two or three different things. They all told you what you wanted to know, and they tried their best to get you to partner with them. Not in an aggressive way, which I appreciate, but in a way of like, hey, we've got some solid coffee. If you like it, let's partner up, you know? And it was really hard. We narrowed it down to about two or three roasters that we felt like just had that special coffee, that had a large enough selection of coffees that they rotate through. Um, but we landed on Tenfold because of the way that they source. I mean, they have direct partnerships with their farms. These guys are buying, wholesale green beans directly from these farms. They're paying them a better wage than most other wholesale coffee places. I mean, you get online and you see, Sweet Maria's, places like that ethically treat their farmers right and stuff, but you're paying the price for that and stuff. These guys cut out the middleman. I mean, they are the middleman. They are the people that are buying up all this really quality coffee from these farms that is just, I mean, they have roasters come in house. I mean, sorry, not roasters. They have farmers come in house sometimes. Like they'll hold an event and be like, "Hey, our farmer from Nicaragua is in town. Come ask questions." They'll have like events like that, like two or three times a year, which I just think is really cool, something special for sure. So we have appreciated that. We made sure to ethically, like, try our best to ethically find someone who cared about the farmers they were working with. Fast forward, they also are just phenomenal roasters. They care about what they're doing. They do weekly cuppings that all of their wholesale partners are invited to. So you can go test out their new coffees. You can test out their old coffees if you want to switch it up. You can ask them for suggestions on what you're doing. But they have such a good offering list, and um, you pay a high price for it for sure. Like I would love to do roasting in house. I'm a little bit passionate about that. I've I've roasted for some shops before. Was dipping my toes and figuring out how to be a roaster, but that is a whole different cost. I mean, just to have a quality like roaster in house, you're talking 10, 15,000 baseline for a pretty small, maybe like 3 kilo roaster. And then on top of that, it's like you have to then source the green coffee and figure out where you're going to buy that from and make sure you're paying them correctly and that you're getting quality coffee. I mean, a lot of people don't realize specialty coffee is primarily where you source from. It matters the farm you get it from. It matters how it was harvested. It matters the quality of the bean that you're buying. It matters how you roast it. You could take two Colombian coffees and roast them completely differently, and one of them could be like, "This is hot fire," and one of them could be like, "This is hot trash." So when you're partnering with a roaster, you just got to care about, do they care, and are they consistently producing something that they care about? And like I said, we found about two or three people who did. Tenfold, just they meshed well. They were really easy to vibe with, and they've been fantastic so far. So that premium price that we pay for them comes with premium benefits, such as I feel like some of the best coffee in the Houston area. So
Yeah, so on our forums, we see because we have a lot of Facebook groups. So if you guys aren't in our Facebook groups, we have mobile coffee business, and we have also like a brick and mortar coffee business group. And a lot of times I see people asking where to source coffee from and where can I find the best price. So, what is your opinion on finding the quote unquote best price over quality?
that's one that I've wrestled with. I told you earlier in the video I'm pretty cheap, but there's some things I don't like to be cheap on. I think it matters about your demographic per se. If you want the cheapest coffee, then my grocery store sells whole bean coffee. You can buy it from them. I mean, in bulk. Like if you're being serious, like I mean, you laugh, but I mean, I've been to shops that use coffee that, in my opinion, is just not specialty coffee, right? That is the line, right? Like here's a coffee shop and here's a specialty coffee shop. Like there's a standard you almost have to uphold. Now, with that being said, there are roasters that I could get a better price from and probably save a couple $100 a month. Just because when you're ordering in bulk so much, I mean, I probably order like anywhere between 50 to 60 pounds of coffee every week and a half. And that adds up, pretty quickly. So when you're talking paying 11.25 or like my espresso, I pay $14 a pound for my espresso. I'm using a single origin honey process Mexican coffee um, from a Venetia varietal, and it's fantastic. But I use it because I like the standard that it is. I have used Tenfold's espresso blend that they do in house. It is very good. It is a solid espresso blend. It is probably like $2.50 cheaper, but because I'm holding myself to the standard, I'm paying more for it. So if you're just out there looking for like the cheapest coffee, where it's most convenient you can get it from, like that's fine if that's what fits your motto. But my mantra is to hold that specialty standard, and that includes, like I said, sourcing good coffee and maybe paying a little bit more for it because you just like the way it comes out. I love our base latte. I love our cortado. It's fantastic. It's got a very nice sweet tone to it with the honey processed coffee. It doesn't have any of the bitterness that some blends can sometimes take on. People are always like, I don't like that, or I don't like Americanos, they're too bitter. And I'm like, hey, give mine a shot. I had a guy today that is a regular of ours that I'm going to try it out. You've been talking about it. And I'm like, yeah, give it a shot. And he looked at me, and he's a very genuine person. He's told me some of the things that we've had he doesn't like flavor wise, and he was like, this is great. Like I can drink this. He's like, this is the best ice Americano I've had. It's not bitter. And that's what matters to me, is when a customer can have that and say this is really good. It's not bitter. Those are the things I look for,
Absolutely.
because I think a lot of people, especially even in specialty coffee, associate with bitter. There's a ton of shops in Houston I could go to, and I'm not going to get a bitter shot of espresso. I tried out a new shop actually right before we hopped on this call. It's like 20 minutes away from me, and their coffee was really solid, and they're getting a really good price for it. I mean, I'm going to reach out to their roaster and see what's going on to see if I can collab with them every now and then. But yeah, if you're looking for best price, just make sure you're sourcing something that you think tastes good. If it's up to your standards and it's the cheapest, then that's good. I mean, you found your source.
Yeah, so that kind of leads us into our next topic of questions for you. So, providing customer experience. We kind of learned what makes for a perfect cup from Sweet Pea Coffee Co., and that's sourcing good quality coffee and just giving your customers that extra satisfaction when drinking your product and seeing that smile on their face. Kind of going into the next question, how do you engage with your local community and build a loyal customer base?
Yeah. We started our journey in our trailer with a point of sale system from GoDaddy. Um, Very good system. Highly recommend it for a mobile application. Gets the job done for a brick and mortar, but it doesn't allow you to engage with your customers. So we've switched over to Toast point of sale. Again, paying a premium for it, but it's worth it. We have email marketing to send out deals. I can set up a promo code no matter where I'm at to give my customers deals. We just started opening up on Sundays. We've been closed, and so we'll do like 50% off. And customers really respond well to that. We post on social media, actively engaging in comments. If we get tagged in a post, we're reposting it, we're commenting, thanks for coming in, come see us again. Just as much engagement as you can do is what you should be doing. And it's hard. It's like almost another full-time job, to be honest with you. Like a lot of people will have a social media manager. I'm blessed that my wife runs most of our social media, and I'm the one who typically just have to sit down for an hour and respond to comments and stuff, which really isn't that bad. It's actually a lot of fun because most people that take the time to comment or tag you in something, it means they really enjoyed the product that you put out and they had a really good experience. So it's always fun to be able to say, hey, thanks for coming. I'm glad you enjoyed it. Or, hey, thanks for trying that. You'll have to try this next time, just giving any kind of feedback you can. And even the negative ones, I mean, they're not bad. You get a negative review, that's just, you have to look at that with a bird's eye. You think you're holding up to your standards and somebody doesn't like what you're producing, then that really stinks. And I always try to offer them another chance to come in and try something else out that they might like. And if they don't like it at the end of the day, then we can part ways. I feel like I have a standard that a lot of people like, and that's okay. So just involving yourself with the community things around you, engaging with posts, serving, doing some kind of advertising with local communities. We're part of the Chamber of Commerce here, which is a really big deal for this area specifically. A lot of the local businesses are partners there, so that helps engage with the local community. We're doing a lot of events on Main Street over here, and we're always open anytime that happens. Like we do a first Friday of the month, they have a big event here, and we're open from 6 to 9 p.m. that first Friday specifically. So we're trying to dip our toes in doing events. My wife is hosting like a mommy painting set. So we
Oh, that's
have
cool.
people actively signing up every day, and they're going to come like paint pumpkins one Saturday. We just hosted a book club like 2 Saturdays ago for a company that's trying to get their feet in the water in the book bookstore, like anything I can be a part of that I feel like is not only benefiting me but benefiting the community. I try to be a part of. So that's this the main way we engage with our customers. So
So on customer satisfaction and going over from brick and mortar or from mobile business to a brick and mortar, did you change your sizes at all? So I know when we serve on our trailer, we serve 12-ounce hot and 16-ounce cold. What did you serve on your trailer, and what did you bring over for customer satisfaction in brick and mortar?
yeah, we serve the same sizes now that we did on the trailer. If I did a private event on the trailer, I would package that as 8 ounce. So like the package you're buying includes 8 ounce cups of coffee, just because it makes the most sense product wise, makes the most sense price wise for mobile business, a lot of different reasons. But being a brick and mortar, unfortunately, a lot of people are. I say unfortunately, a lot of people want like that Starbucks like venti,
Yeah, the
like they want the
huge.
20 ounce cup. Yeah, and I'm
Yeah.
like, I like you don't understand how much that's going to cost me. Like if I'm putting like three shots of espresso or like a quad shot of espresso in like a 20 ounce cup that actually like maintain the flavor that I want to
Yep.
maintain, it's going to be like a $9 cup of coffee. And I'm like trying to be an every man's cup of coffee place here, like I don't want to break the bank. I feel like we have some really fair prices. I know some places for sure charge more than we do for less. So um, we use 12 ounce hot, 16 ounce hot, and then 12 ounce ice and 16 ounce iced. In house, we have 12, 16 ounce mugs. I also have 4 ounce glasses for cortados in house, and then 2 ounce espresso glasses if they're having it here. For ice drinks here, I only do 16 ounce just because it makes more sense spatially wise for me to only do a 16 ounce drink in house. But obviously, the customer is welcome to get a 12 ounce drink. It'll just be in a to go cup. And so that's primarily what I do. Now, being in specialty coffee, you get your people that will come in and want a traditional flat white or a traditional cappuccino, and then you ask the question like, okay, what size? And then you tell them, oh, I've got 12 and 16, and they're like, oh, you have anything smaller? And I'm like, okay, you're looking for a traditional 8 ounce, aren't you? And they're like, yeah. And I'm like, cool, I got you. And it's like to train my baristas on that. Like, people will sometimes be a little put off that you don't offer that like traditional small size, because that's what they came in thinking they're getting from a specialty coffee shop. And that's okay. Like I have 8 ounce cups. I keep one deck. Like I love a good 8 ounce cappuccino. I think that's primarily like my favorite is a cortado. I like that ratio a little bit better, but I think primarily when you talk specialty coffee, a lot of shops only do 8 ounce drinks. But again, you got to be in every man's place. So if I'm going to be a brick and mortar and I'm going to be here for the community, I'm going to have the sizes that they want. Now, I have had a lot of pushback that I should get a 20 ounce cup. And I don't think I'll do that. I think that's just a little too much. I'm using too much product. And even though I think they're willing to pay that price, I'd rather them come back like, maybe 4 days of the week and get that 16 ounce than only come like 3 or 2 days of the week for that extra price that's 20 ounce. Because at the end of the day, like they say they want it, but I know that they're also on a budget. So
Exactly. So someone's brand new walking in your shop for the very first time. What's the three most popular drinks you're going to recommend to them?
oh yeah. Um, I get that question like every day, actually, which is nice. I have a lot of people walk in like it's my first time here. I'm like, cool, welcome in, and they're like, what do you recommend? I always start with our specials. We keep seasonal specials to keep our in-house syrup options down. If I could, I would just have like mocha, vanilla, and caramel as my only options. But again, I'm here for the community, so as my house options, I have a pretty good amount, and then I supplement that with seasonal specials. So for summertime, we had uh, let's see. For summertime, we had a lemonade for kids. It was like a shark attack lemonade. We had a summertime blues, which is my personal favorite. I used a single origin Burundi coffee from the Hafi region, and I brewed that as cold brew, and it's fantastic. It's like a very light earthy, has like tones of blueberry in it. Cold brew used a house made blueberry syrup with turned that into a cold foam. So it's just like very light, refreshing cold brew with like a sweet blueberry cold foam on top. People love that. And I always recommend our fall specials. So or sorry, our seasonal specials, which right now are fall. So you got like your pumpkin spice. I've got a pumpkin cream chai. I've got a candy corn latte, just keeping things fun because a lot of people come in and they want those drinks. So right now you came in my shop and said, "What's good?" I'd be like, pumpkin spice, made in house, super fresh, real pumpkin taste. That's a top winner in my opinion. I have a caramel apple cold brew. That's my personal favorite. I'm a big cold brew guy, so that's an apple infused cold brew with a caramel cold foam. Super refreshing, good, very crisp. And then our top two or not seasonal flavors are our honey and cinnamon is our number one seller. And that is great, hot or ice. And then our salted caramel is very popular for some reason. A lot of people really love it. We make the caramel in house. It's really good, but I think if people don't get our fall drinks, they're going towards the salted caramel or the cinnamon. So,
All right. Well, they all sound great. Now we're going to move into trends and innovations. So, what coffee trends have you noticed recently, and how is Sweet Pea Coffee Company adapting to them?
oh, I think there's a lot of trends that go in and out in coffee. I see a lot of different Instagram reels of a different thing, and I think that really follows the seasons. So, doing our seasonal drinks, I think, is how we try to keep up with that. For a while there, and some shops still do it, and you might have never seen it, or you might only be seeing it now or hearing it because I'm saying it. But like when we went to drop our summer menu the day before, my wife showed me a trend that was going on that I'd seen it a couple of times, but she sent me one, and I was like, I really want to try that, I guess. And so it was. We called it our Dr. Spro. So it's Dr. Pepper and espresso. So people doing espresso and soda and cola. So
Yeah.
it's like some people love it, some people hate it. I loved it. I doubled down on the trend and I put up my own flair on it. And if you go to Sonic, Sonic has a make it dirty section now where you can put like cream and lime juice into a drink and it's like makes it really good in my opinion. But I was like, I love a make it dirty Dr. Pepper at Sonic. So what if I do the Dr. Spro and I have a make it dirty option? So now I have a Dr. Pepper with espresso in it that I love straight up. And you can also make it dirty by adding cream and lime juice, and it just gives it a totally different flavor. So I mean, just being trendy like that, like taking something that you find and not necessarily copying it like point for point, but maybe just using it and then putting your own twist on it. It's fall. I have to have a pumpkin spice latte, but I'm gonna make my pumpkin spice in house. So like mine's gonna taste way different than Starbucks, or it might taste different than your local coffee shop's pumpkin spice that they make in house. So just following the trends of the seasonal specials, I'll keep fall on until mid-November and then I'll switch to winter specials. And I always try to keep like a consistent like cold brew option on there that has a fun flavor to it. Obviously, like a really good hot drink, one that I like to have iced over having it hot, that kind of thing. I think that's the best way to keep up with trends, in my opinion. But
Yeah.
like I was also saying, like not sacrificing the like specialty aspect. We make our syrups in house, so we're able to like really dial that in. We have a rosemary infused cranberry simple syrup that we use in a matcha right now. We call it pasta cranberry. That one's a really good matcha. But we're still able to use like these specialty house syrups, or I'm able to use like a really good single origin bean for the coffee, like on like I was telling you about. There's a lot of things you can do to keep it like specialty and niche, where you're not just like throwing any coffee in there.
Going from a mobile business to brick and mortar, what have been some of the biggest challenges you faced as a coffee business as a whole?
Mm. Ooh. Biggest challenges I would say would be staffing. When we opened, it was like you don't know how busy you're going to be. When we opened, it was just like me and my wife and my brother-in-law. Like I would train him to work for us, but he did not work for us like consistently. It was just like when I needed him to. Um, and when we opened, we were just like swarmed, like way more than I anticipated, I think. So I didn't have the proper staffing at the time, and I regret that. But again, that comes from the budget I was on. I went slightly over budget on my build out and some of the equipment that I added to the shop. And because of that, I didn't have the budget I wanted to have employees. And I am not going to hire somebody if I can't pay them. I have been in a shop where like my boss is like, I need to pay you on like Thursday. And I'm like, that's like 5 days past what I'm supposed to be paid.
Okay.
And it feels like you have a little like too many employees, but now owning a shop, I understand that that's a problem, because sometimes you don't have enough people coming in. So like that's been my biggest thing is staffing. When we opened, it was me. I remember like one of my first like Thursdays in here out of nowhere, I had like grossed like over what we had been doing in a full day's amount by like 10:30 in the morning,
Wow.
like by myself. And it was like insane. And thankfully I can handle that to an extent, but I was slow because I was the only one here. Um, it's hard to know when you're going to be busy and when you're not going to be busy. So like right now, I will only have one person here in the mornings until about 9 or 9:30, unless it's like a Friday or a Saturday. Then we're all here earlier to make sure that I'm producing in a speedy manner because most people want to grab their drinks and go kind of thing. But that's been my biggest challenge, staffing and just issues you don't foresee coming. 2 weeks after we opened, my refrigerator broke, and I had to pay somebody like $400 to come fix it. So that's money that like you didn't budget for or you didn't think about. I'm like, yeah, we had it because we have like an emergency line in the budget, obviously, but you
Right.
don't expect to use your emergency line in the first 2 weeks that you open.
Exactly.
So you got to build that back up. Uh, Not knowing how much coffee you need. You don't know how busy you're going to be. So it's like, do I buy 50 pounds of coffee or do I buy 100 pounds of coffee? And it's like, you don't want to have too much because you don't want it to sit on your shelf for too long. But if you have too little, then you're calling your roaster saying, I have to come pick up coffee tomorrow. And I've done that. I've been there. I've had to reach out to them and be like, hey, I was absolutely swarmed today. I went through 15 pounds of espresso when I normally would only get like five and a half, and it's like I have to come fix them up tomorrow afternoon at the latest. Is that a possibility? Again, they've always been great, and they've always hooked me up as fast as I possibly needed them to, and it's been awesome. But yeah, I mean, I think everybody's going to face different challenges, but those have been my main two: is staffing and knowing people here so that my cost of labor stays pretty low, but that I'm still producing it the amount that I want to produce and the time I want to produce it in. And then money's always a problem when you're a small business. So again, unless you've just saved up enough and you're just like kind of sitting on a cush and you're just doing this for fun, but when you're doing this out of passion and out of like a desire to be a part of the coffee industry and you jumped in because you've been able to, but not being able to and being comfortable are two different things. So that really drives you to do the best you can with what you have.
Yeah, exactly. So, you say like when you go through and you have to buy so much coffee, and you don't really know exactly how much coffee you're going to need to buy for that day, that week, that month, whatever. How long do you let your coffee sit off roast before you typically like to serve it?
Ideally, I'm letting it sit off roast for anywhere between 3 to 7 days. Uh, that's not always been the case, unfortunately. Um, when I order my coffee, it comes fresh roasted. It's like a custom order for myself. Now I do use Tenfold's blend. It's called My Shout for my drip coffee and for my cold brew, like my house cold brew. And a lot of times they have that already done. So I might go pick that up and it might have been roasted like 4 or 5 days before I pick it up, which I think is, in my opinion, like peak time that the coffee's ready. I mean, a lot of people think fresh is best. I used to work
Yep.
at a coffee shop with a roaster in the shop, and they're like, "What day do you roast? I want to come grab the beans straight out of that thing." And I'm like, that's okay. Like you can, but I've got stuff on the shelf that I roasted 4 days ago, and it's gonna taste way better. People don't understand that once you airtight that, like lock it airtight into something, whether that be a container, a bag, preferably something with a valve, so that that degas can actually escape. That's what the valves on coffee bags are for. No, they're not for you to like push down on and like stuff your nose into trying to smell the coffee. Like, does everyone do it? Yes, I'm very guilty of that as well. They are for the degassing of coffee. So when you roast coffee, it is pushing off carbon monoxide, which is known as the degassing process. And when you are finished roasting coffee, you preferably should bag it in something with a valve on it, seal it, and let it sit at a room temperature rate for at least 2 to 3 days to degas. So anytime I would roast from home in like a little roaster I have for fun, I would always let coffee sit there for at least 2 days before I would crack into it, because I found that even if I tried to have a cup of it the day after, I mean, I might wait 24 hours. I roasted it at noon, I'm having it at noon the next day. It would be okay. But then I would come back to it 2 or 3 days later and I'm like, oh, this is opened up. I have so much more flavor in this coffee. It's hitting notes on my palate that it didn't touch before, things like that. So unfortunately, there's been times where I've ordered coffee from Tenfold and they roasted the day before and I'm throwing it in my, it's like, I need it, because I didn't prepare properly. Is it come out good? Yeah, it's come out solid. You can use coffee like fresh from a roaster, and it's going to be okay. It's going to be good. But to get that like prime flavor, I think my espresso needs to sit for about 3 to 4 days. So
If you ever get a freshly bag of roasted coffee and they don't have a one-way valve, you're gonna notice it's like
yeah,
a balloon. It gets super like blown up and expanded, and I mean, I've never seen one actually blow up, but I'm sure that if it was off roast freshly and it was degassing so much, I mean, I'm sure it could actually.
yeah, it can. Yeah, that gas it lets off a lot. People, I didn't know that. I didn't know that until I got into like home roasting before I got back into especially coffee years ago. I always thought fresh was best, and fresh is best at a certain extent. That doesn't mean you need it like directly from the roaster. And it can last. It can last a while. I mean, I can order coffee and I can let it sit for 2 months and it's still going to be just as good as it was 5 days post roast, but it does expire. Thankfully, I don't have coffee sitting here in my shop for 5 months, but, I've done it at home. So
So, what is future plans of growth in the coming years for Sweet Pea Coffee Company?
consistency. Consistency is a word that I would look for. I'm okay if we haven't moved, if we haven't grown in staff. Um, Honestly, if we haven't grown in intake, income wise, I think we're in a good spot. I would like to be better. I'd like to be a little bit more consistent. I think the word consistency drives that fact that we would maybe need another staff member or two, and we're probably bringing in a little bit more income. But if I can be a consistent staple for the community, that's what matters to me. Here in a minute, when I walk around, I'll show you. But on the wall, right in front of me, behind my bar, is our slogan: "Community blooms around a good cup of coffee." From day one, I've always said, "I'm here for the community." So the shop is family friendly. Like I've got a bookshelf and kids toys, and like a lot of times you'll see moms and their little kids and dads and little kids running around in here. My son, who's almost 2, is in here, and he's like a maniac. Like most mornings when my wife brings the kids up here, like I'm here to be a specialty shop in an area that there isn't one, but I'm here for the community. So like I didn't come in with like the low light, super niche, very trendy vibe of stuff. I made it artsy and cute, but I made it warming and welcoming. Even down to our colors, we get complimented on like the green and blue hues all off. So that it's bright, but it's warming, like it's welcoming. And that's what I want to be. I just want to be that staple for the community that people can. I can go there with my best friend and play a board game for 6 hours and have 3 cups of coffee, or I can go there with my wife and kids and let my kid run around and play, or I can go there by myself and just get some work done. Like I want to be the everyman spot. I want to be that place for my community where they
Exactly.
feel comfortable to come, no matter what they're doing. If their in-laws are in town, or if their friends are in town, or if they're just suggesting it to somebody asking where to go. I don't want to be that place where you walk in and you can almost feel out of place sometimes. I feel like the coffee industry in itself is awesome, and I love those niche spaces. But I have been in shops where I'm like, I don't fit in here. I'd suck out like a sore thumb if I sat down in here for more than 5 minutes. So that's my biggest thing. It's just consistency. I don't care if we have another spot. I don't care, like I said, if we grow our team any. Like I think we're in a good spot, and I'm comfortable. I'm not in this to make $1 million. I'm in it for my community. So
Absolutely. And they say if you're doing something that you love, you never work a day in your life. So,
they say that. Yeah, they say that. So I think when you do something that you love, you don't. But then when you own something that you love, you do.
exactly. So, do you have any future plans on collaborations with other businesses in the future?
What type of businesses, like specifically, were you thinking when you had that question in mind?
So, I know you have, I know you said you do like pastries in-house and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Do you ever see yourself going with something that maybe you don't make in-house that you'd want to bring into your coffee shop?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I kind of mentioned to you earlier that I wanted to collab with some other roasters. I really want to roast in house eventually, but I am looking for roasters that are just producing some special coffees that I can put on the drip, or I can use as a single origin cold brew and like really pub that out to them. and give them a shout out for that. I'm also like when we first opened, I partnered with a local baker who makes macaroons. She's pretty well known in the area. She doesn't like shop or anything. She just does a lot of the markets around here. But that was a great little collab for, I think we did that for 2.5 months. Every Saturday, I would buy 100 macaroons from her and exclusively sell them here on like Saturdays, and then sold it until I sold out. And I sold out like almost every Saturday. And if I didn't sell it on Saturday, then I finished selling them on Monday when we opened back up. And that was like a way to be like, hey, we have this person's pastry in our taste today. Come try it out. That was also a way for that business to say, hey, you can't find me today, but you can find my product here. Uh, I don't care to necessarily partner with any like big bakery or anything like that. We were outsourcing to just like a wholesale baker, nothing special at first. People love the pastries. I always wanted to do it in house. I brought my best friend on full time to be my production manager who has a passion for like baking, stuff like that. And he is producing some fantastic pastries right now. So, I mean, I don't really want to bring any other pastries in, but if there's like a small mom and pop that's trying to get their foot in the door, or if there's a really good coffee company, like I said, that's just producing something special and a lot of people don't know about them, I'm happy to collab with them. I always love a good collaboration, especially when it's mutually beneficial. So,
Absolutely. Do you have any plans on ever hosting like a latte art throwdown in your coffee shop?
oh, yes. Oh, man, I hope so. In Houston, they have Houston Coffee Collective, which is, I mean, they're doing a really good job just highlighting a lot of the spots. They have a coffee map. So if you look it up, you can like their website directly takes you to a map of like all the coffee shops in Houston that are like local, like owned. And boy, let me tell you, there's a lot. But yeah, no, they do a throwdown once a month on Thursday nights, typically more like the heart of Houston, which by the time I get out of here in like 5 o'clock traffic, that 30-minute drive to downtown turns into like almost an hour. So I don't really get a chance to go out to them very much these days. But they do a good job with those, and they rotate the cafes that they go to. So I'm trying to get in touch with them to come out here one Thursday and do kind of like a outskirt of Houston throwdown because they haven't really done that yet. But yeah, I would love to do that, even if I can get one together for like the local community. But there's just not a ton of like baristas over here that I think will
Right.
travel, So I think it needs to be done by somebody who does it often and has like that following for people to really show up. Otherwise, it'll be like me and like three other people, and I'm like, okay, I guess we'll be out of here in 30 minutes. Like who can pour the first one? Like here we go. So I love a good throwdown. I love the coffee community. I think it's something special. I think a lot of people when they get together who care about the community and care about the passion behind the coffee and care about the different profiles, like it's just different whenever you care about it and you're do.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, I've been a part of a couple of them and they're definitely super fun.
Yeah.
So kind of wrapping it up with a couple closing questions here before we kind of get a tour of your shop and your equipment. Um, for someone who's new to specialty coffee, what advice would you give to help them kind of just appreciate the different flavors of coffee profiles and brewing methods and why?
Brewing methods, I would say, are the number one thing that's going to change the tasting profile. I mean, I had a roaster come in and drop some coffee off like 2 weeks ago, and a good buddy of mine who comes in all the time, I was like, hey, come on in, let's try these coffees. Say I was supposed to do one today. I'm looking at my Chemex right now, sitting on my bar, but I left the coffee like I knew I was supposed to do it right after I got off the phone. Different roaster, a buddy of mine that's in Austin, Texas, doing some roasting. Yeah, brew method makes a difference. Thankfully, I am knee deep in the industry, so like I know what I prefer to have most of the time. So when I'm tasting new coffees, I'll typically just stick to that method. I don't really like cuppings. A lot of people do cuppings for tastings, and that's great. I like cuppings when I'm trying like 15 coffees, and I can get a that to me, a cupping gives you a gist of what it's going to taste like, and then you get a sample to make it the way you want to see if it actually tastes how you want it to taste. You know what I mean? Um, so just don't be afraid to experiment. My wife really loves a solid Colombian. Like she doesn't know as much as I do about coffee. She tries, but just the different coffees I've brought into our house or into our business, every time she's going to pick the Colombian. Because it's typically roasted at a light to medium roast. It's smooth. It's not overly bright on the front end. I like to avoid the word acidic because it's not in the SEA wheel of flavor, if you would. So I hate using that word, but most people would say acidic. I like to say it's bright, it's earthy on the front end. It's going to hit the sides of your tongues, and before it hits the tip of your tongue with the bitterness. And so don't be afraid to try new things. You might like a really light roast with fruity notes to it, like the blueberry Burundi I was telling you about, or you might really get down on like a nice dark Ethiopian coffee that's roasted like a Yirgacheffe that's more like a full city, the medium to dark roast, you'll find what you like and you can stick to it. And don't be afraid if other people don't like that. I try to keep my coffees in the shop very base. I told you I use a pretty bright honey process for my espresso, but when you're mixing that with milk, it keeps a really good base flavor for the customers. My drip coffee and my cold brew house are a blend that's a medium, but don't be afraid to try different ways. I would like to host a class is what I really want to do in my coffee shop for like people around my area. Because a lot of people when they buy coffee somewhere or they come in here, they're like, I just don't know how to make it home. And it's like I totally understand that. Like it can be overwhelming the options you have. Like
Yeah.
you can make a good cup of coffee with a decent coffee pot as long as you're using fresh beans that you're grinding or you got it fresh ground from the roaster. But don't be afraid to try things out. I like a Chemex. That's like my go-to, like preferred method is going to be a Chemex. I used the AeroPress last time I did a tasting because I feel like that produces a good concentrate and I have a really good recipe that gives me a nice smooth flavor. I have a heart for light flavor fruity coffees, but like in my soul, I love a dark roast in the French press, which just produces this like thick textured coffee that's going to be oversaturated because it literally just set in the ground and just like all the flavor absorb. And if you accidentally leave it for like 10 minutes instead of 4 minutes and you pour the coffee, you're like, holy cow, because it's just so flavorful. So it's like, there's so many different ways and there's so many different times where I want something different than I had. So don't be afraid to go after it. Don't be afraid to try new things and say, I didn't like that or I like that more. And don't be afraid if somebody says, I'm glad you like this, but it's trash.
Yeah, yeah, no, that's good. Like I said, thanks for going through and answering all those questions and pretty much being a big help for those who are getting into coffee, whether they're a home barista, a mobile coffee business, or a brick and mortar. But really eager to see your setup, kind of see your shop, just so we can kind of close it off and people can kind of see what Sweet Pea Coffee Company is all about.
Yeah, for sure. It's a bit messy from the day, but I'll take you on a brief tour here. Let's see. Cool. So I'm currently in the middle of my shop. Let me put the camera. Okay, so I'm just currently standing in the middle of my shop. So this is like my side entry. A lot of people use the better front entry over there. But this is my bar build out here. That's what I was telling you about there. The community builds around a good cup of coffee. It's a pretty narrow space. We have a big bench seating over here. We built this bench out, and I really like this setup because it just allows for an open area. I didn't want to cram too many tables in here. I wanted people to feel comfortable. Some really cool wall art that my wife and I did. The back mural back there. I've got a kitchen in the back I can show you guys, but some couch seating, sure. Nothing too crazy. It's a very standard shop. It's just meant to be more of like that cozy space and feel. So very
Awesome.
small piece, but some good stuff we've got going on right now. I've got a pumpkin cheesecake muffin, pumpkin chocolate chip muffins, chocolate chip scones. That's a chai spiced scone on the left there, and then we've got cinnamon rolls we made in house. Looks like we sold out of some stuff. We're also doing some cool pop tarts right now. For my espresso machine, I'm using a San Remo Verona RS. I love it. It's a three group heavy controlled. I mean, it's a real deal. It's basically their F18 model, but just in a different frame. I got it refurbished from a company in Austin, Texas, and I haven't had a single issue with it. Uh, for my grinder, I'm using a Malkonig E65 grind by weight. I mean, it's the Mercedes Benz of grinders, in my opinion. It does much better when you're talking about like a high volume shop. I paired that with a Puck Press M3 that you can see it sitting on top of just to create consistency for all of my baristas. I think it works great. If you look in the back, you can see the Malkonig E43S. It's a great coffee grinder for cold brew drip espresso. I mean, I use that for like decaf and stuff. It can really do anything. And then I pair that with this bad boy here. This is the Cyclops by Ground Control. The company is doing some really groundbreaking things. It's more of a siphon process. So as you can see, it actually loads in the bottom, has an agitator to be able to agitate the coffee, and I can control that down to the milliliter. And then it acts as a siphon. I'm interchanging that with air up top, and then it just free falls straight in the carafe. So super cool machine there. Really love it. But yeah, I mean that's my bar setup. You can see my back fridge back there. I added that. I started with that mini fridge on the right because I didn't have enough money, and I added that other fridge about 2 months after we opened. So I mean, again, just starting with what you can. My game shelf is always pretty crazy, but got a really good selection of games. Actually, a local business here put this bookshelf in here and filled it with books, and it's kind of like a take a book, leave a book situation. So, and then nothing crazy here. Bathrooms are both over there. Got two bathrooms. I've got a storage closet here. Um, and this is where I keep our coffee, right on, coffee and most of our cups and stuff like that stay in here. I try to keep it as organized as possible. Um, and then I have a kitchen in the back, which is messy right now because I went on a run to buy product right before we shot this video. So I have stuff kind of all over the place at the moment. But yeah, I mean, we prep all of our stuff here, bake all of our stuff on like a base oven that we added, put in shelving for like flour, sugars, other stuff. And then I have a refrigerator and freezer in here. So, I mean, we're not working with anything like super crazy. We don't have anything that's super fancy. All of my stuff is almost bought secondhand. I mean, I bought that fridge and freezer from my landlord for less than half the cost it would actually cost you. I bought the oven that I just showed you off Facebook Marketplace from like a resale company that brought it in and hooked it up for me, and it's been great. It's not a commercial grade oven, but it is commercial enough to have in my kitchen with all the qualifications I have as a full kitchen. And it's a double oven, so it gets the job done. But yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, it's nothing special. It's a coffee shop. It's got chairs, it's got tables, it's got equipment in it. But to me, what really makes a coffee shop special are the people. As long as my baristas are talking to the customers, as long as I'm producing quality coffee day in and day out, and as long as I'm again being that staple that I want to be in the community, that's what I care about for my coffee shop. So
No, that's awesome. And it's nice because it feels, or it looks like it feels nice and cozy in there. Like you said, it's not like super big, but it's like just the right amount of chairs and tables to where someone can come in, like you said, and feel comfortable coming in and doing schoolwork, work, or just coming in with their family and sitting down, having a cup of coffee or a pastry. So, I mean,
yeah,
it just goes to show that if you put your mind to it, anything's possible and you can create an environment that you want.
yeah, exactly. So
Well, I really appreciate you joining us today. Anybody has questions for you, they can reach out to you on Instagram at Sweet Pea Coffee Company. I definitely recommend checking out their Instagram. It's really nice. They show like their specials. I saw your latte art on there, and just kind of the whole process from start to finish when you guys first bought your cafe. So
yeah,
definitely go check them out. And yeah, it was really nice to talk with you today, and thanks for giving us your time.
yeah, it's been a blessing. I mean, thank you so much for having me on. I care tremendously about the coffee community. So it's fantastic to be able to help even maybe one person watching this to answer some questions that I have whenever I started. So I know I'm kind of long winded. So if you stuck with us this far, follow us on Instagram. If you have any questions, you can reach out via DM on there. So yeah, fantastic talking with you today.
Awesome. Well, it was nice chatting with you, and we'll definitely catch up soon.